So you want to be an Ironman, number 2 in our series. We're going to be covering from 4 months out all the way down to being 2 months out. Want to be an Ironman? Today on the Do Hard Things Today podcast. All right, guys, great to be back with you. We have had about a month extended period that we haven't been with you. My goodness, my entire family has been on quarantine. We started with first person in our family was January 1st. So basically the entire month of January was just a big old mess for us because we got a big family and one of them would get it, the other. I mean, it was just a big mess. And so a lot of stuff going on. Everybody's well now, thankfully. And we're excited to get back going with the podcast. We've been hearing from you guys. Always makes us feel good when you reach out to us and say you've been missing us. So we're going to get back going with you. Hal, remind everybody where they can find us, how they can get in touch with us, and find us on social media.
We're just about on every podcast outlet.
Yep.
Of course, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and if you can ask Alexa to play the Do Hard Things Today podcast, she will.
Nice. Good deal. Well, we are back at it, and if you will go back, and we will put in the show notes the podcast when we started this so you want to be an Ironman. We wanted to do a series. We have a lot of people inside of our community that kind of look at that Ironman as the kind of the pinnacle achievement of triathlon. Don't know if that's necessarily true. Many don't. I don't think people need to look at the farthest distance and decide that is the real goal. You have to do these things individually. But a lot of people ask about an Ironman. Hey, I'd love to do an Ironman. So we felt it would be valuable to the audience to be able to do a series with Coach Katie Malone, which we've had her on several times on the podcast, and just a great resume. She has completed Ironmans, has done not only completed them, but it has competed in them and has been very successful as a coach as well. So we wanted to bring her on, and the last one we went from month 6 out all the way down to month 4 out. And what we're picking up on today is going to be the part 2 in that series, where we're going to talk about what is it to be, what do you need to be doing, what's everything, not only training wise, but mentally, taking care of your body, all of the different things that you need to be doing. And we're going to cover a 2-month period from being 4 months out all the way down to being 2 months out. And for those of you that follow along with us, she's going to talk us through this. We're going to have a conversation about it, and then we've taken some of your questions. But in the middle of that, we're going to evaluate where I am, because as we're taping this podcast, we are 91 days, as the podcast host reminded me today.
2,160 hours.
Yeah, I'd have to look through this text. We were texting back and forth about something. And
I had a lot of time on my hands at work this afternoon to look that up.
He laid out all of the different things, how many hours it is, how many. But I'm 91 days away as we record this from my first Ironman, which is going to be Ironman Tulsa in Oklahoma in late May. So I am right on that cusp. If you look at that's 13 weeks. So I'm right in that area that we're going to be talking about today. So just a little bit, really about 3.5 months is where I am. So Coach Katie Malone, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yes, and for those of you that are listening, that are on the team, we are recording this in the middle of the swim challenge. And the challenge will probably be over, but what I would like to ask you, Coach, is there a prize for second place as well, just for the rest of the team?
Yes, there is. We're actually doing first, second, and third this year.
Oh, great. Well, there will be something for you guys that don't win, because me and my partner are going to win this thing. Laying down the gauntlet.
All right, you heard it here.
You heard it here first. We can edit that out if we happen not to win, but if I feel good about our chances. So appreciate you coming back on. We are now. I believe the words you used last time were you're training to train, And so just give us a little bit of a recap, real short recap of that 6 month down to 4 month of really what does it mean to be training to train. Then let's just jump right into 4 months out from an Ironman. What do we need to be doing?
All right, so 6 months to 4 months. Basically, what I mean by your training to train is that you need to be consistent. You need to figure out your schedule. You need to figure out when you can get to the pool. You need to figure out when you're going to ride your trainer, where you're going to set your trainer up so that you don't wake the rest of your family up when you're doing your workouts at 4 o'clock in the morning. And if doing workouts at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, if that scares you, it's time to get over that, because you have to be able to do that in order to fit that training in your life. At least for 99% of the people that I'm coaching who are also working full time and have a family. So then when we get back down into the 4 month range, that's where the real training begins. When you hit that 4 month countdown, right where Kevin is right now, this is when it gets real. The workouts during the week don't change that much in terms of time, but the intensity definitely will. The frequency, like having 2-a-day workouts where you work out in the morning and then you work out again in the evening, those will start to appear more frequently. And then the weekends. You really have to learn to become a weekend warrior. You have to learn to clear your schedule. And you have to remember that this doesn't last forever. It's just during this phase of the training. This is where the big miles start to happen. This is the hardest part of your training because if you haven't ever done one before, you're acclimating your body to go long. You're learning how to take in nutrition. You're acclimating your family to what living with an Ironman is like. And a lot of times, we might kind of laugh about that, but it's true, because even though it's hard for us, we're actually getting the reward from the training. Our family is just getting a mentally and physically tired person at the end of the day. So that is an aspect that you have to take into consideration. But your weekends, you're going to have usually Saturday a long ride, and depending on your speed, that could be anywhere from 3 hours to towards the end of the training. Some people are going to be out there for 8 hours doing their long bike rides. And Sunday, you get your long run, anywhere from 2 hours in the training to train range. And then as you work through it, some people are going to be up to 4 hours of running or run walking.
Yeah. So leading up to right now, I've been in that 5 to 8 hour weekly range is roughly what I've been in. And I said, I'm 91 days. So that's 13 weeks. So about 3.5 months out. So as business starts picking up, what's the biggest challenge that most of your athletes face when you really start walking into this zone? Because I would imagine you would say this next 2 month period is the most important of the entire block.
That is correct. The next 2 month period really is the most important block. And I think that the biggest challenge is sleep. For most people, because triathletes are typically type A, they don't like to let anything go. You're going to do the training. You're going to work the way you've always worked, right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, going to keep working. And then maybe work a little bit later, stay up a little bit later, right, so you can get more done.
Yeah. And you start, I don't know how important you think this is, but you start multitasking. And I have found, even on my trainer, that I've pulled my laptop up at times, and I've actually worked on, now you can't get deep into things, but I've actually worked on some things that I needed to work on. I have, found some ways to be able to do that. The hard part, like you said, is because I think there's some things for all of us, and maybe you can speak to this, but there are some non-negotiable things. And for me, what I've had to figure out is, what are those negotiable things? And as I've anticipated coming up over these next few weeks, a lot of hours on the bike and running, is like the non-negotiables for me is like I've got 5 children. And so, how can I have time with them? And for some, those trainer rides, the kids are up, they're up around 6, and so there are times I try to get those done beforehand, and then try to plan my. I am flexible in being able to plan some lunch, like lunch swims, lunch runs, those kind of things. But it is, I think for me, that's a piece of the puzzle that I'm having to figure out. Well, I don't think there's really time for anything else outside of work, family, and training of what's coming up. Is that fair?
I think what Kevin just said is entirely accurate, but a lot of people still try to do everything they've always done and then Ironman training on top of that. And that's where I see people get really frustrated, really exhausted. And once you've dug yourself into a hole like that, you can't really get out of it. And, even with you, I worry about sleep. I worry about sleep with all of my athletes. I'm always asking people, how much are you sleeping? Are you getting enough sleep? Because typically triathletes, I will say a lot of triathletes are up and training by 4. Yeah. 4 o'clock is it's not unusual for me to get text messages from people, in the 4-hour range, 4 a.m. So sleep and getting in bed and being disciplined about getting in bed is so important for recovery. So if you go 2 or 3 weeks and you really cut that sleep short, you're not going to recover. Then you're not going to be able to do the training that you need to. And that's where, with coaching, I end up having to adjust training plans because I see people can't cope. So we have to cut back, then we have to build up again. It makes it a little bit more challenging.
So how do you recommend people do what? Because it is that is a hard thing because if something's going to get cut, it's going to be sleep because I've got to get the training in. And,
right.
And so talk. Why is sleep so? I know the answer to this. I think everybody listening knows the answer to this, but sometimes we need to hear it. Why is sleep so important? And even what does recovery in itself look like during this big training block period?
Recovery really is any time when you're not training. Mm-hmm. So technically, when you go to work during the day, if you're sitting at a desk, you're recovering. But for people who have jobs where they're active, they're not necessarily recovering while they're at work. Yeah. So and if they're doing 2-a-days and they work a physical job, they get no recovery. And so athletes that I have who are doing physical work during the day, I am very concerned about their sleep. And because if they're not getting good sleep at night, they're not getting that muscle repair that everyone else is getting, and they can't keep up. Their body just can't keep up.
So you hear, what were we taught? 8 hours of sleep is what you need. Some people say, well, 6. Well, hey, I sleep hard, so I need 5. What, in this period of time, generally speaking, how much sleep, this is part A and part B, how much sleep do you need to get? And do you include, if there's at all the possibility of getting a nap in at some point, is that important? And are those things cumulative?
So napping will allow you to, have some of that muscle repair and allow you to recover a little bit faster. Napping is great if you have that ability. A lot of triathletes don't have that ability just because of their work schedule and family schedule, but napping is great. So if you can nap, by all means, take a 20, 30-minute nap. That will help you. As you get into bigger training, you need more sleep. So the person who was moseying along with 5-6 hours of sleep and functioning pretty well, you get into doing 100-milers followed by a 20-mile run the next day, you need a good 8 to 9 hours of sleep.
Adding to it.
And you're really going to need that sleep because if you don't get it, you won't be able to function well mentally or physically.
I don't know if this is the direction you were going next. You're going to cover everything, but let's talk about hand in hand with recovery is nutrition during this time. What are there any things at night that you can, what does what helps you prepare? Because I know there's certain things, if I eat a big meal, it's hard to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things, maybe some tips that you would give that you talk to your athletes about with nutrition wise to prepare you to be able to rest, recover, and sleep?
Well, this is a little bit more difficult because as we get into the bigger training, most people are doing training in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get, if you get off work and get on your bike to get in an hour and a half to 2 hours at, say, 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, and you're not done till 8 o'clock, you need to eat right away, which usually means you want to eat something that's already prepared. You don't want to have to start cooking dinner at 8 o'clock. So planning ahead, having meals pre-prepared or purchasing meals that are pre-prepared. You want to have, that balance of carbohydrates and proteins. You don't want to be just eating protein. You don't want to just be eating carbohydrates. And you want to eat vegetables, fruits, and vegetables. So it's like you really have to make an effort to have that balanced diet and not overeating because you're training more.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy to be like, well, I just rode for 2 hours. I'm starving. And that's where having meals that are pre-prepared really come in, whether you make them, whether you buy them, but eating as much real food as possible just so you can refuel. And I find that eating, always making sure you have some carbohydrates will help me sleep better. And I'm not sure if that's really a thing or if that's just something for me personally. But if I just eat protein in the evening and my vegetables, I never feel like I can go to sleep quite as well as if I have a little bit of potato, some sweet potato, or just regular potatoes or rice. So that's one of my little tricks. I like to have my carbohydrates.
How about caffeine?
Oh, good question. So caffeine is one of those things you really don't want to touch after lunchtime. Caffeine is a performance enhancer. So before a race, if you always have a cup of coffee in the morning before you do your training and you're going to a race, still have your cup of coffee, stick to your routine. During long training, you can have a sports drink with caffeine in it, and it will help you feel a little bit better, on the weekends for your long training. But in general, like on a day-to-day basis, you don't want to have caffeine in the afternoon because it probably will affect your sleep no matter how much you're training. Yeah. And you need to be able, when you get in bed, you need to be able to go to sleep.
Yeah, I notice that. I notice that whenever I've kind of at 2 o'clock is the cutoff for me, and when I do have more caffeine, it really affects the quality of my sleep on that. So you mentioned another thing about you're getting into these huge blocks of training time. Obviously, you're going to be burning a tremendous amount of calories. Let's talk about two things nutrition wise. Number one, let's talk about the training period, which you call the training event. That 30 minutes before, 45 minutes before the event, during the event, 45 minutes after. That's kind of that training window that you're before you work out, while you're working out. A lot of stuff going on there. What are we taking in there? And then I think where people can get in trouble and there's confusion is all the other time that you're not in that training block. Because I think I've seen people that have been doing big trainings like this do one of two things. They will surprisingly gain weight, or they just lose a tremendous amount of weight. And both of those are probably not the best things to happen on that. So talk about those two things. The training window, what's going in your body then? What are the macros, the things that you're trying to take in then, and then the rest of that period, the other 22 hours of the day, what do you need to be focusing on?
Okay, so Kevin just made some great points about the people who you see. You might even be one of them who goes to do an endurance event and you've gained weight training for it. And then the other people who they lose so much weight, they have no strength and no power. And both of these are indeed issues. And as a coach, I definitely talk to people a lot about them. And really, it has to do with your food choices. Usually, it's not just the training, it's what you're doing in between the training. So first, we'll talk about kind of what to eat before you train. Since a lot of people are getting up early in the morning, I find that people typically don't like to eat in the morning before they do their training, which really isn't a great way to start your day. So I try to eat things before I go out and do my morning training that are really easy on my stomach. Like I might have a piece of toast with peanut butter or almond butter, whatever you choose. I might slice up a banana and put it on it. My favorite go-to before I work out snack, and I can eat this before I run or before I bike, or honestly swimming too, is a whole wheat wrap with peanut butter, honey, and sliced banana. And I just, make that real quick. It takes about 2 minutes to make. I can eat that and I can go out the door and do any workout because that's what I'm used to. So it's all about figuring out kind of what works for you. Also, yogurt works well for me. It's a culture. A lot of people think, the dairy, but really yogurt is very good for your stomach. It can often settle your stomach. So as long as it's not filled with sugar, you're good to have some yogurt before you go out and do your training in the morning. So having something in your stomach before you train is important.
All right, let me stop you there, and then we'll jump into the other time. So I want to talk to you about 3 separate workouts, and I would imagine these are going to be 3 workouts that people are going to be doing in the mornings during this during this time. Let's talk about a morning hour to hour and 30-minute trainer ride. Okay, and you're getting straight up, and it's one of those deals where, like, if I had an hour and a half trainer ride, I would be on my bike riding latest 4:30, the latest, because I would want to be done by 6, showered, back out, being able to help with kids at 6:15. So let's talk about that one first. So an hour and a half, that could even be an hour, maybe it's an hour run in the morning, but a little bit higher intensity, those type things. What happens, because again, sleep's important. Literally, you start talking about minutes, where it's like, what is the absolute latest that I can sleep until my alarm goes off to be able to get up, put my kid on, get on the trainer, and start? What is that? So explain what exactly needs to happen from the time you get up until 15 minutes later you're on that trainer.
Okay, so for me personally, get up, drink a glass of water or my morning cocktail, which is lemon juice, some apple cider vinegar, some cranberry juice, and some water mixed together. That's my first thing in the morning. I drink a glass of that every day, and then I might drink some water. I get my water bottles ready. I eat something, whatever it is. A banana, yogurt, piece of toast. It just depends on what I'm going to do. If I'm on the trainer, you can feed yourself while you're on the trainer. So a lot of times I will take, I like the Cliff gel blocks. I will eat those when I'm really hungry and I need to get a workout done. I'll just start eating those as soon as I get on the bike. I'll take my water bottle with me. If it's an hour and a half trainer workout, I want to have some electrolytes in my water bottle. So I take my sports drink, the sports drink that I drink every time I ride my bike. Just getting my stomach used to what I'm always going to be taking in when I'm riding.
Okay.
So that gives you calories too. And usually with that combination, you can stay where you feel good, where you're not feeling like you're bonking by the time you're getting off the bike. And then as soon as you get off the bike, you need to eat something again. Ideally, something with protein. Ideally, like some eggs, toast and eggs, just to give yourself replenish. Sometimes a smoothie, that's easy just to have ready. Frozen fruit I throw in there, protein, and either soy milk or regular milk, just depends on what you like.
Yeah.
Because that way you help your muscles recover.
Okay. Training event 2 is on a Saturday, and it's a 100-mile bike ride. Okay, and you're going to leave out, it's light. When is it light, Hal?
Right now, 6:45.
Yeah.
So 6:45. 6:45, 7 o'clock, the wheels are rolling. And so you're going to be going from 6:45 until 1 o'clock. Long ride. What happens on Friday night, and then what happens on Saturday morning, food-wise?
Good question. So Friday night, not eating any spicy Mexican food. Just keeping it kind of bland because you don't want your stomach to be upset. Probably I would, before long races or long rides, I just like my pasta, just either plain with a little bit of butter, a little bit of olive oil, whatever. Some chicken, because that's fairly easy to digest. I typically will not eat red meat the night before, just because that doesn't settle well in your stomach the next day.
Yeah.
And some vegetables or salad.
Okay.
So balanced meal and just kind of bland, not anything spicy that's going to get your stomach upset.
It's like a mixture of like brown rice and shredded chicken. Is that something like, we're talking just some good carbs, basics, something that's going to be easier for your stomach to digest.
But also fuel you. And I think some people think, I'm going to go out for 100 miles. I better eat extra tonight. The last thing you want to do is overeat because you will feel terrible.
Yeah.
My Friday night is Fuji with rice and chicken.
There you go.
Chicken teriyaki.
Okay. So Saturday morning.
Again, it kind of depends on you and what you like. But, if I'm going to go on a long bike ride, a couple waffles with some syrup and maybe some fresh fruit, maybe a yogurt, maybe an egg, a hard-boiled egg, or even fried eggs. I mean, I will eat some food before I get on the bike. I like to eat at least 500 calories before I get on that bike for a long day.
And it is go ahead, Hal.
I'm 2 chocolate chip waffles with peanut butter.
2 chocolates. I like. And
there you go.
And you probably figured that out from riding. That's what I was going to.
It's just go-to.
Yeah. I was going to add, isn't it important to really, really practice your nutrition to find out what works during these long rides and even as important, probably more, is what doesn't work as far as agreeing with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're out on the bike. Do you believe in mainly taking in, your sports drinks, gels, those kind of things, or are you more a proponent of, if you can handle some solid food on the bike, taking that in as well?
So again, this kind of depends on the intensity. If I was going out for a long aerobic ride, just trying to get in base miles, just trying to see what my odometer hits today, not really going too hard, that's where I'm going to eat a bigger breakfast, my eggs, my yogurt, my fruit, and everything. If I'm doing a really hard day, I'm probably just going to stick to the waffles. And then on the bike, I'm going to stick to liquid nutrition, maybe gel blocks, sports beans I love.
And is your reasoning there, we're thinking about a fire, what's the stuff you throw in the fire that burns really quickly? What's the stuff that takes a little bit longer to burn? Is that your thinking there? If it's more intensity, you want the faster burning stuff that's not as substantial?
No, that's not my thinking at all.
So what is your thinking?
That's
what I thought you were thinking.
My thinking behind all of that is what's going to be easy on the stomach, what's going to be easy to digest, because if you have a lot of food in your stomach that you need to digest, you're going to divert the blood flow from your muscles to your stomach to digest the food, and that's not going to make you feel very good. Yep. So I want to, if I'm going to have some intensity in the workout, I want to make sure that I have stuff that's just easy to digest, also easy to get in. If you're doing intervals during the workout on the road, you just want to be able to get your calories in from your bottles.
So that goes to the question of workout number 3, which I think is the trickiest as far as food is concerned, because I think you could run into the problem you just said. You got that 5:30 hour and a half trainer ride, or maybe it's a 2-hour. You're going to go ride outside with a group, whatever that may be, because I think I think I said this in the marathon training podcast, but I think it's multiplied by 100 for Ironman training. Is all of these workouts and all of our meals and everything else are not single events in themselves. It is a piece of a big, huge puzzle you're putting together, and every one compounds on the other one. So you've got a 2-hour ride that's coming up, and you're going out, and maybe it's a group ride that's not going to be that intense, whatever it may be, but you're going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours into riding. Or you've got to run, whatever that may be. What do you need to plan? And I think that's the key word there. How do you plan, and what do you need to be taking in for those workouts in the evening?
So evening workouts are a lot harder, I think, especially if you have a run with intensity in the evening, because everything you've eaten throughout the day has the potential to wreak havoc on your run. So you have to be very intentional with what you eat at lunch. Like if you have, say, a track workout that you're going to do at night, you don't want to have that salad for lunch. You don't want to eat a bunch of vegetables at lunch. You need to keep it to some rice and maybe a little bit of chicken.
And this is because of the intensity factor,
It's
not the
because
length.
It's
the
not the
intensity
length.
factor.
It's the intensity.
Okay.
I mean, you need to eat, but you need to keep it really simple so that you don't have GI issues going into that workout. You need to be super intentional, and you got to stay away from the stuff that's, that might be in the cafeteria, or if you go out to lunch with friends, you need to really be careful what you eat. Then in the evening, usually if I'm going to do something like with intensity at night, and I'm starving when I get home from work, I'm going to eat 4 or 5 gel blocks, or I'm going to eat a package of my sports beans with water and drink some water before I ever go out to do my workout, because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And I know that if I'm going to do a track workout, I can't eat my dinner and go do my track workout. Well, you can, but it might not end well.
Yeah. So what's the right way to say this, right? During this block, which is this next 2 months is going to be the hardest training you do.
Mm-hmm.
So during this, you need to just accept the fact that you're going to have some boring eating. You need to. I say boring. That does not mean does not taste good. It's not. But you're not going to be. You're not going to be eating chips and salsa as much, and you're not going to be going to eating as much savory and heavy stuff. You get what I'm asking?
Yes. I mean, and it all depends on the timing of your workouts. I mean, personally, I never do a track workout at night because I need to eat during the day. Otherwise I feel terrible if I don't get enough food, and I'm not nice to be around. I'm hangry. And so I always do my track workouts in the morning. And if I can't do the track workout one morning, I'll do it the next day in the morning. I'll rearrange my schedule so I can do it in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think knowing yourself and knowing what works for you is really important. But I'm just going to perform better if I do it in the morning. I'll be more focused. I'll be more intentional with the workout. And just kind of coming back to something that you were saying before about multitasking. You said, you can multitask when you're on the bike, which is good that you can do that, kind of. But at the same time, you also want to really practice focusing on like micromanaging the workout and really focusing on each interval and what you're doing, because the more you practice that, the better you get at it, so that way when you're outside for 6 hours, you have the ability to focus for 6 hours, because we have become such creatures of habit looking at our phone every 2 seconds. I don't know if anybody here has ever looked at there's like a setting on your phone and it shows you how many times a day you pick up your phone. It's pretty disturbing. And we're in a culture where we're so used to doing that to get on your bike and focus on what you're doing without any distraction for the day, it's actually unusual because we have so many distractions. And so the training and being focused during the training, it's actually what prepares you for your race. Just food for thought there.
Yeah. Well, that is, and again, I think it goes to prioritizing that. Where you cut, you got to cut out all the fat. The things that aren't important, you got to cut them out. So we covered the training events. What's important for us to be eating in these other time? What are the staples of our diet going to be during this time?
Again, I am no sports dietitian. This is just Coach Katie here telling you what I do and what I recommend that people do. I am a huge proponent of eating real food. Don't eat processed food. It makes it very simple to figure out what to eat.
Yep.
You eat fruits, vegetables, meats, potatoes, some rice, some grains, but not things that are processed. And when you start doing that, either you're going to just drop weight like crazy because you're taking so many of those empty calories out of your diet. Chances are you're going to feel a lot better. Your gut health will be a lot better. It's really not that hard to do. You have to pay attention to it, and you have to have an awareness around what you're putting in your mouth. You have to control that action of the hand lifting to your lips.
Yeah. Well, and I think if finances allow, there's some ways you can make these things a whole lot easier, food prepping wise. If you don't have an Instapot, you need to buy an Instapot. One of the things that we make every week is shredded chicken, and we will put about 3 pounds of chicken breast or chicken tenders, and you can even put them in frozen. But we stick them in there. We use bone broth, and then we cook it on high for 10 minutes. Let it release naturally, and you just shred it up, and then we put it in a Ziploc container, and you've got chicken that you can put with rice. You can use it for anything you want to use it for. A rice cooker. You stick it in there, turn it on, cooks for 45 minutes, whatever it takes. You've got rice. Keeping these good things on hand, because if you don't have the things on hand to eat, you'll eat something. Especially in training like this, you're gonna eat something. And if you grab we've talked about our triggers. For me, I mean, if I've got a bag of salt and vinegar potato chips, like a big Lay's bag, you're making an ugly face, but I can taste them right now. If I've got that, and I've had a huge training, and I don't know what it is, but like
the salt.
I can go bike, or I can go I had a 9-mile run yesterday. I got done. I wasn't like famished, starving. I go swim 1,700 yards, and it's like I am on fire to eat. And I don't know why that is, because it seems like it's not as hard. But if I don't have anything on hand to eat, I will eat that entire bag of salt. I'll sit down and just start crunching away, and you'll eat those. So I think having these things on hand, some people do meal services, whatever that may be, but taking some time on Sunday or whenever it may be to food prep. Those sweet potatoes are easy to make. Potatoes, all that stuff's easy to make if you'll just have them on hand and cook. It's pretty much 5 minutes of prep time. Cook them, and it's just have them on hand, because it's. I think you would say that's going to be, the key for being ready for these workouts. So we talked about the nutrition. Let's talk about the mental game. What are the mental challenges? What are the mental tips or tricks you would give us for this period? That's just I imagine you get into it, and it becomes just a bit of the way I feel right now is I'm 3.5 months out. I'm motivated by I'm seeing gains. My runs by I had when we went through all that time. My run's back. It's the speed's coming back there where it is. My power's back on the bike. I'm back in the pool. I'm feeling good, but I'm still far enough out to where it's like, man, this one part of it looks like 91 days. It's really close. The other part is like 91 days. That's still a lot of time before we get there. So when you're a month out from something, you're really close to it. This seems like it is. Does that make sense? You're in this period of it's far enough out to where it's not like it doesn't seem super urgent, but you're far enough into your training to where you're really starting to see some gains, and you're seeing you're seeing these longer workouts become not as hard. You're seeing your speed get better. Those kind of things. So what's the mental game?
So 4 months out, I can tell you for sure it's urgent. It's these workouts are serious because every week is going to build on the last week. I mean, there will be some recovery weeks in there. Hopefully they are intentional recovery weeks. And I think like one of the biggest things people like, oh, I had a recovery week, but it doesn't look like a recovery week. Recovery weeks, you're still going to train. You're still going to swim. You're just going to back down the intensity, back down the duration, so that you do get some recovery. But like your recovery week during Ironman will look like your hard week that you used to do before you did Ironman training.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that's kind of hard to wrap your head around sometimes. But I think mentally, one of the big things is trusting the process. Like if you're working with a coach, you need to trust what the coach gives you. You don't need to do more. Don't do less. Just do what's on that training plan. You have to trust the process, but you have to be engaged in that process every single day. And it's doing all the little things, the food, the sleep, the training plan. Do the training plan the way it's laid out, because I know for me, when I'm coaching people, like I want to make sure that we're not, pushing all the runs to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or pushing bike rides that are really hard on back-to-back days. You want to give yourself a little bit of recovery in between really hard, really intense workouts. With Ironman, there is a pretty good degree of, aerobic work that you're going to do on the weekend. It doesn't necessarily have to be super hard or super intense. It's just going to be long. And so preparing yourself for that mentally, remembering your why. I always come back to that with my athletes. Like, why are you doing this? And it's not always something that I ask that people share with me, but you better know it, because that's going to be what gets you out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to do your training. And I'm not trying to scare people away with this 4 o'clock in the morning stuff, but if you want to be successful, you've got to get your training done. And, people don't usually schedule meetings with you at 4 o'clock in the morning, so you can get your training done. Your kids usually aren't up and going at 4 o'clock in the morning, so you can get your training done. Getting your training done with Ironman, it is so important, and so many people miss that point. They buy a new bike, they buy all the gear, they buy all this stuff, but they don't make time for that training. And so I think following the process, sticking to the process day by day, doing the little things that matter, that's kind of what you've got to wrap your brain around. And every day you have the chance to start over. Every day.
You mentioned something of don't push all your workouts in. So let's talk about when, because stuff happens, and there's days when it's like, you know what? Kid had an accident, didn't get hurt, but I'm dealing with this. I didn't get home until 9 o'clock and stressed. I've got an hour-long training ride I'm supposed to do. But at that point in time, the best decision is to not do that trainer ride right then, because that's going to throw. What do you do with that? Do you I know with like marathon training, it's like, don't make that workout up. Start the next day. But like you said, we're laughing before this. Know your audience. You're dealing with people. I know one day I had a run on a Saturday, and in my comments I put, man, my legs were just dead today. Got through it, but my legs were just dead. And you commented like, well, you ran, biked, and swam yesterday. And it's because I had a bad beginning of the week, and I just moved. I just bumped two workouts to Friday. I was like, well, I'll get them in. But, so, it is – so you're saying it is better if you get into one day and it does not happen, put that in your rearview mirror and move to the next day.
Most of the time, yes. I'm saying – if you're working with a coach, you email, you text your coach, you go, I can't do this workout. What should I do? Because some workouts are key workouts, and some workouts aren't. And, for somebody like you who loves to ride the trainer, like you rarely miss a bike workout. The runs, well, maybe not so much. So I would probably say, okay, you should do a run.
Yeah.
It just depends on what your strength is, what your weakness is, what you like to do, what you've missed a lot in the past, on really what you should do or if you should make it up. But one thing I can say for sure is I see people a lot of times push workouts to the end of the week. Either it's workouts they don't like to do, it's workouts they miss just because they're busy with work or life with kids. And that is a super bad habit to get into. And it's a habit. You have to, like I said, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get it done before, because the kids aren't out driving around having an accident in the afternoon or in the morning.
And I got to believe that Fridays are probably going to be one of your lowest load training days on a regular week, because the weekends are so big. I got to imagine that Fridays are going to intentionally not be as bad as the rest of the days.
I think that Fridays make for a great day off. I mean, typically days off are either going to be Friday or Monday. Honestly, I prefer that people take a Friday off, because I feel like most people are pretty tired from their work week by the time they get to Friday. They need a rest mentally and physically. And so I think workouts on Fridays are setting people up for failure. Because you're already tired, you already had a lot on your plate, you have things you got to get done at work before the weekend. Fridays just are not good days, and I see it over and over again. If you look at training plans, how many people miss a Friday workout?
Yeah. So you would say that you don't look at that day off as this, because when I see those, a lot of times I look, it's like, okay, if I got to shift something, I can shift this to then. And you're saying that your days off are as important, if not more important, than some of your workouts.
Yes, days off are really important, because you need to recover. You need to use that time to either get a massage or get an extra hour sleep or do some stretching or just spend time with your family and be focused. I think that one thing, triathletes, we always want to fit something else in, do something extra. It's like what you can do extra on the day when you're not training is spend time with your family, so that way you are present mentally and physically, instead of thinking, oh, I should be training, I need to get to the pool, I need to do this, I need to do that. No, you need to be with your family.
Yeah.
That's where you need to be at that moment. And so you have to just be focused on being where you're supposed to be.
Nice. All right, before we get into the questions from our group, what else? What training wise, anything wise during this period? What do we need to be prepared for?
I think the biggest thing is learning how to clear your calendar for the weekends. Communicating that clearly to your family that, hey, on Saturdays or Sundays, I'm going to be gone for a good part of the day. Because it's hard when you've always been available and you have kids and they have events. You are going to miss some of those events. Unless you take a day off during the week to do your long workouts, you're going to miss some events during this time. And I mean, really, it's a 6 to 8 week window of big training where you just don't have a lot of flexibility. If you have a daytime job, you're going to have to get it done on the weekend. And I think that that's the hardest thing for people to wrap their minds around, because it looks so effortless when you watch other people do it and post pictures on Facebook about how happy they are training and how much fun they're having. It is fun because you feel so accomplished every week as a PR because you've done a new big distance. But that fear of missing out, that is very real. And it's just something you have to wrap your mind around.
So what issues? Let's talk about the time of year. So I'm training for a end of May Ironman. Most of them, I think that's the first one of the year. I think that's the first American one of the year. Most of them are going to be, you start moving through the summer. You got Placid the end of July, but then I think most of them are going to be more towards that fall time and others. What are the unique challenges of our opportunities with the different times you're racing? Let's call it like an early season, which would be late May into the summer, that time frame, or training for a fall.
I mean, the season that you're training in definitely makes a big difference because, like, right now, you can't really go ride your bike after work outside. I mean, unless you have lights. That's not necessarily something I'm a big advocate of, is riding in the dark. I feel like it's a little bit dangerous. I know a lot of people do it and are perfectly fine, but I don't ever ask my athletes to ride in the dark. It's not something I'm personally super comfortable doing, so I don't ask athletes to do that. So in the winter, right now, you're not going to go out for a bike ride in the evening unless you're on your trainer. Then the weekends, you better have your cold weather riding gear. The challenge that it really presents is the earlier workouts that you're doing, you can't practice your nutrition and hydration for a race that's going to be hot. You're not going to have a lot of heat acclimation. I know for athletes who have done Ironman Texas, which is typically in April, they've gone down there. It's been really hot, and they have not trained in hot weather at all. And that makes it really difficult. And you think, oh, I'm good in heat. You don't want your first hot training day to be in your race.
Yeah.
And so I think that presents a pretty big challenge. I mean, can you set up your trainer in your bathroom and blow your heater on you? Yeah, you can. That is an option. That is one way to get yourself acclimated to heat. But it's definitely not fun.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. So people will be listening to this podcast probably beginning of March, in that range. So they're going to be, that's 6 months out from over in September. A lot of the races, a lot of the Ironmans will be there. People will be listening, thinking about that. Let's talk about that. Let's go back to that 4-month milestone. That training to train. Just generally speaking, what does someone's fitness level need to be when they hit 4 months and they're training for an Ironman? Let's just give some general, you could break it down by, you should be able to ride this far, run this far, swim. Just what generally speaking would you say about someone's fitness level needs to be at 4 months out at that milestone? Because I think that will help some people that are at 6 months now figure out, okay, what do I need to do over the next couple of months to prepare for the real training?
I think by the time you get to 4 months, you should at least be able to swim 2,500 comfortably. You should at least be able to ride 60 miles on your bike and at least be able to run for 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on if you're walking or not.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I look for in the athletes that I'm coaching, just to make sure we're kind of, have a good base level of fitness.
Yeah.
And they're not coming into it burned out.
Yeah. All right. Hal, anything from you? I mean to wake you up over there, man. He's in a slumber.
Here I am. When we started, Kevin mentioned right now he's doing 5 to 8 hours, 4 months out. What's it going to look like when it gets to 2 months out, time-wise, per week?
We'll probably be between 12 and 15 hours.
Okay. Yep.
We'll do it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Hal didn't think I'm going to do it.
You can do it.
Says I got a lot going on, man. I'm ready.
That's extra motivation for you.
I guess we can evaluate, and you can diagnose me and feel free to be as bad as you want to be. But I am where I am right now. I feel like now I had to take a little bit over 3 weeks off from the pool. Just got back in the pool last week. It was rough getting back in. Of course, you get in, you feel like I've lost everything, but it's coming back. I think for me, I love, we mentioned a couple, I love the trainer. I can get on that trainer, ride 2 hours, and for some people it's like that's the worst thing in the world, but I love to get on there and knock out the trainer. I like the longer runs. I'd rather run 13 miles than a super hard track workout. I'd rather do that all day long. But so those things are coming. But I think for me, it is okay. The time on outside on the bike is kind of where I'm going to need, and the consistency in the pool. I think I do. You nailed it with the. I don't miss a trainer workout, and I generally don't miss the runs up to this point, I'd say that and I think this is probably for most people, the swim is always the one that gets there. So let's talk about where I am right now, and what would you say about where? Because we'll come back to this in a couple of months when we're
No,
at
let's
go
not
time.
come back. Let's not come back to it. Let's fix it.
No,
Let's
we'll
fix it now.
But I'm saying in 2 months when we do the next podcast on this, we will be discussing the things that needed to be.
So I think the big thing for you is to create a repeatable habit with your swimming. With your schedule, that's difficult, but I know you can do it. You just have to do it. It's necessary in order for you to be successful. And it's like if I told you, that you could be successful and not swim, you just wouldn't show up to the pool.
Yeah.
But right now, for you to go to that pool at least 2 to 3 times a week and just do the workout that's on your schedule and go early, because the day will get away from you, and because you don't enjoy it as much as you enjoy the trainer, it's easy to be like, I'll just skip it. So, challenge yourself to have 3 weeks, because it takes 21 days to create a habit. Challenge yourself to hit those swim workouts 3 weeks in a row. I mean, this week is week number 1. You've got swim challenge. You've already told us you're going to win. You're going to have to swim a lot. Mm-hmm. So, next week, swimming only 3 times, that's going to be easy. So there are 2 weeks, done. You only have 1 more week, and you've got some habits. And it's creating those habits that are going to move that performance needle.
Okay. What else?
I just see the other challenge is getting in those long rides.
Yeah.
And that fear of missing out on the weekends when the kids are doing something that you really want to be at, when you really need to be on your bike.
Yeah. That's
going to be hard. That's going to be hard.
It will, but I think seeing that, okay, we are. That's what I was saying earlier. It's far enough out to where you've. And what I meant by that comment of how it's far enough out to where it's like, okay, it's like the swim challenge this week. Okay, we want to win that. We don't want to be second. We want to win the swim challenge. So I feel like this next 7 days we're going to do what it takes to win that swim challenge. But that Ironman is far enough out to where you really can't taste the reward yet. But it is close enough to where I do realize, okay, if you miss that 5-hour bike ride, you're never going to get it back. You're never going to be able to get it back. And so when you do get there close enough to where the reward's in front of you, you're going to be 1 5-hour bike ride worse than you could have been if you got there. And so, yeah, I feel good about.
You got my number.
Got Hal's number. I'll be calling Hal to go on the bike ride, because I signed up for Augusta to do it with him, because everybody else was signing up for Wilmington. He was going to be down there by himself.
I was. Everybody's going to Wilmington. I was like, who's going to Augusta? Nobody.
So,
that was nice.
Mr. Nice. That's my middle name.
Get him in the heat again.
Yep. Yeah, get him out in the heat.
I've watched you down there before.
114 degrees. So, anything else from the coach on 4 to 2 months?
I just think that don't worry so much about the goals, what you want your race time to be. Worry about doing the work every day. If you do the work every day, you will have nothing to worry about. You'll be so much less stressed. Just do the work every day. Make good use of your time. If you have to drive an hour to go do a group bike ride, do the group bike ride, and drive home an hour, that's 2 hours of wasted time driving around. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a safe place to ride right from your house, I get it. But if you can ride from your house and ride to the group bike ride, then you can save yourself some time and you end up back at home and get your miles done. You have to use your time really efficiently when you get into these bigger weeks. And, I see athletes all the time spending all this time driving around and then going out to eat afterwards. And, if you already have a family at home, you need to be efficient. You need to get out the door in the morning and you need to do what you said you're going to do. If you said, hey, I'm going to be out on the bike for 6 hours, you better be on the bike for 6 hours. If you only got 85 miles in because you were dawdling, that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not your family's fault. You got 6 hours. So I think that it's really important to do what you say you're going to do. I mean, not just with training in life too, but.
To sum up what she just said, it is the perfect, it's the way we end our podcast every week, but it's what she just said. It's really what she just said.
Get your ass out there and get going.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And remember, because we're coming back in 2 months to report on this, and when we come back in 2 months, you're in no man's land then. If you ain't put the work out, if you haven't put the work in at that point, it's over. But what she just said is, and we'll close the podcast with this: if you do the hard things today, tomorrow will take care of itself.